Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a genuinely fascinating expose on the psychology of modern wealth. We're going to unpack these incredibly smart, highly engineered traps that are literally designed by the luxury industry to keep you broke. If you've ever felt that heavy pressure to look successful, or, wondered if the flashy people around you actually have any real money in the bank, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's get into it.
Okay, picture this. You're out at brunch with some friends. A guy walks in, wearing a flashy Gucci belt, crisp off-white sneakers, and he drops his BMW keys right on the table next to his mimosa so everyone can clearly see that little blue and white logo. But here is the part that makes this so fascinating. 30 minutes later, the check comes. It's split evenly, so it's about $62 a person. Suddenly, the guy with the designer belt and the luxury car keys on full display starts doing absolute financial gymnastics. He's frantically checking his banking app, transferring money between accounts, asking if anyone can Venmo him so he can pay them back next week. He drove there in a car that costs him $650 a month, but he literally cannot cover a $62 brunch without shuffling money around. We're looking at a real epidemic here. People who are exhaustively dedicated to looking rich while actually being broke. They're cosplaying success while secretly carrying a negative net worth.
So let's break down how this happens in Section 1, the epidemic of fake wealth and the entry-level trap.
To really understand this, we have to look at a concept the luxury industry absolutely does not want you to know about. Luxury brands, your Louis Vuittons, your Guccis, your BMWs, they make their real money from clients with $10 million net worths. But let's be real, there simply aren't enough of those people out there to fuel massive global corporate growth. So what did these brands figure out a few decades ago? They created a second tier of products. Think $500 key pouches, $450 belts, base model cars. These products, they are not designed for wealthy people. They are specifically engineered to extract money from the aspiring middle class who desperately want to signal a level of wealth they just don't actually have.
And the data proves just how insidious this trap really is. A 2023 study from Experian looked at the people financing entry-level luxury cars, like a BMW 2 Series or a Mercedes CLA, versus the people buying fully loaded regular cars, like a Honda Accord or a Toyota Camry. And the Experian data found something wild. The average household income of the person buying the cheap luxury car is actually lower than the person buying the Honda. The entry-level luxury buyer is stretched way thinner financially and is far more likely to be underwater on their loan. Yet they're paying this huge premium just to look richer at a red light.
This brilliantly illustrates the total absurdity of what we can call base model badge engineering. Let's break down the numbers on this. For $44,000, you can get a base BMW 330i with fake leather, which they very generously call leatherette, and it's missing a bunch of standard features. But for $39,000, a full $5,000 less, you can get a fully loaded Honda Accord with genuine leather, top-tier safety features, and way better reliability. You are quite literally paying $5,000 more for a worse driving experience just to have a fancy hood emblem. And the ultimate irony here? Car enthusiasts immediately recognize a base model. You're really only impressing people who don't know any better.
Which brings us to Section 2, the performance of wealth.
Now we hit on an absolutely crucial concept, the logo to net worth ratio. When people are financially insecure, when their bank account doesn't make them feel successful, they seek external validation to fill that void. Imagine someone making a $55,000 salary, but they're carrying a $2,800 Louis Vuitton bag. That is over 6% of their entire gross annual income dropped on a single accessory. The math, it just simply does not math. It's basically an external bandage for an internal insecurity.
Let's rapid fire through the psychological tells of this performance. First up, the social media ratio. A 2021 study from the Journal of Consumer Research found that people who frequently post about luxury purchases actually report lower financial well-being and lower life satisfaction. The documentation is the entire point for them. They are performing their life, not actually enjoying it. Second, context-dependent flexing. This is wearing the designer outfit to a public event, but living in fast fashion at home, or strategically swapping a perfectly good $30 Amazon watch for a nice one the second a certain person walks into the room. It sounds exhausting, right? And third, the financial vocabulary gap. People performing wealth talk almost exclusively about consumption, where they ate, what they bought. But people actually building wealth, they talk about mechanics, compounding, equity, asset allocation.
All right, let's flip the script and look at the actual reality behind the curtain in Section 3, the anatomy of being broke.
The contrast here is stark, and honestly, this is the foundational secret to personal finance. Wealth comes in two forms: visible wealth, like cars and clothes,
and invisible wealth, like index funds and equity. Truly wealthy people have far, far more invisible wealth. A healthy millionaire might have a visible to invisible ratio of 1 to 10. But the fake rich, their ratio is completely inverted. They might have 90% of their net worth highly visible, actively depreciating in a driveway, and only 10% invisible, sitting in a pathetically small savings account.
The harsh reality is that actual financial security isn't postable on Instagram. Real wealth is, well, it's incredibly boring. It's properly funded emergency accounts, life insurance policies, living trusts, and Vanguard statements. Consider this deeply concerning study from the Federal Reserve. Nearly 40% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing money or selling something. And I guarantee you a very significant portion of that 40% owns something with a luxury logo on it.
Let's see how this builds into what we can call the lifestyle subscription trap. Traditional wealth used to be durable. You bought a nice watch and passed it down to your kids. But modern fake wealth, it's a subscription. You lease the car, you rent the aesthetic. Consider this catastrophic math over 10 years. Leasing a luxury car costs you roughly $83,000 and leaves you with exactly zero equity. Buying and keeping a regular car costs you $48,000, and you retain $12 to $15,000 in equity. That is a $35,000 difference spent purely on a performance.
Which leads us directly into the 90% fixed cost disaster. Financially healthy folks generally keep fixed costs below 50% of their take-home pay. But when you're cosplaying success, your fixed costs can easily hit 90%. Let's break down a terrifying scenario on a $4,800 take-home pay, a $2,200 luxury apartment, a $650 car lease, $600 in subscriptions, and minimum debt payments. Before they even buy a single gallon of milk, they are left with $1,350 for the entire month. That's just $45 a day for food, gas, savings, and actual emergencies. It is a complete house of cards.
And this culminates in the ultimate irony, the money stress inversion. Logically, you'd think someone displaying a lot of wealth would be totally relaxed about money, right? But with the fake rich, the complete opposite is true. Every single dollar spent on looking rich robs them of actual financial margin. They display extreme luxury, but exhibit extreme anxiety over a simple $50 dinner tab or a $300 unexpected mechanic bill. Actual wealth provides peace of mind. If someone is wearing a Rolex but completely stressing out about a $300 expense, that Rolex isn't a sign of wealth. It is the literal reason they have no wealth. So, where do we go from here? Let's talk solutions in Section 4, Escaping the Fake Wealth Trap.
I want to ask you directly, how do you personally break free from a society that constantly equates visible luxury with actual self-worth? How do you escape a trap that was meticulously designed specifically to transfer wealth from your pocket to massive corporations? Well, the way out is actually much simpler than you might think. Here are 4 clear, actionable rules to escape the performance. First, define wealth correctly. It is assets minus liabilities. It's about having options, not having logos. Second, track your visible to invisible ratio. For every dollar you spend on something visible to show off, challenge yourself to spend $2 on something invisible that builds your financial foundation. Third, resist the entry-level luxury trap. Ask yourself honestly, would you buy that $500 keychain if it didn't have the famous logo printed all over it? And fourth, and honestly this is by far the hardest one, you have to work on your internal self-worth directly. Internal insecurities simply cannot be patched up with a designer wardrobe. The hole isn't in your closet, it's in your self-concept. It all comes down to this one core truth. You don't need to look rich, you need to actually be rich. And the irony is, the path to actually being rich requires letting go of looking rich along the way. That quote perfectly summarizes the fundamental takeaway of this entire explainer. Build the boring wealth. Drive the unsexy, reliable car. Skip the corporate trap. The truly wealthy do not care what strangers think of their net worth, and neither should you. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a lingering, provocative question to ask yourself the very next time you open your wallet. Look at your own life. Are your spending habits building a financial fortress, or are you just buying tickets to your own performance? Take a hard, honest look at the invisible versus the visible in your own accounts. Let the performance go and start building real freedom. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.